Hear you. I can't hear you.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Karuna. And I have one of an amazing personalities with me today, Anjali Singh. She is an MD with Deutsche Bank, and we have her on board today. And I'm super excited to talk to her and interview her on various topics that we share as common interests. So, welcome, Anjali, to the session today.
Thanks so much, Karuna. Thank you for inviting me. Thanks.
I'm looking forward to an amazing conversation with you today.
Me too.
Thank you. So, Anjali, while we continue to keep talking, I would want you to introduce yourself with some journey of yours in your career, starting from your education to a little bit about where all you've worked till the point that you've reached where you are today.
So, very quickly, I'll try to make it short. My journey is now more than 27, 28 years of work experience. Started with American Express and started and spent almost 7, 8 years there. And that's why I do believe that one has to, spend enough time in a company to be able to learn from it and then to give back. I don't change easily and often. After that, I left Amex for FIS, where I spent 4 years, and then I joined Genpact, where I spent 14 years. So it almost became like a second home to me. Last year, so about a year ago, I changed and I joined Deutsche Bank, and now I'm with Deutsche as the head of corporate bank operations. So it's been a year, and I'm looking forward to another hopefully long, successful stint at Deutsche. My education has been very varied. My father was in the Foreign Service, so I studied in many different schools. I've graduated from an American school, and I've done my O levels as well. So it's been, interesting between the Indian system, the UK system, and the American system. I've studied in India for my university from Lady Shri Ram College. I've done my master's, it's just been a journey. I was always ambitious, and I knew that I wanted to have a career. I don't think I was too clear in my head about exactly where it would lead me, but I did always plan just the next thing that I had to do. So sometimes when you set a very big goal for yourself, it's overwhelming. And therefore, to reach that very big goal, you have to just set the milestones that you want to, follow through on. And that would be sort of my journey. It's never about, where I want to be in 10 years. Yeah, there is a distant vision of that, but it's always about what would I like to achieve in the next year or two, and let's work towards that. And you keep setting yourself these milestones to reach your bigger goal.
Very interesting. A lot of us have different kinds of approaches in terms of having a large vision, but sometimes keeping an eye on your next few steps is the key to help us achieve the success that we are looking at as well.
Yeah, you have to set a big goal because it's good to have a large vision, a big dream. But I think if that's the dream and you don't put in the building blocks that are going to get there, then it's just this big, goal, and it's sometimes overwhelming because you set yourself a huge goal and then you keep thinking, oh my God, what do I do? But if you try breaking it down and actually think of where do I want to be in the next year or the next 2 years, and then what's next, and then what's next, it simplifies your journey. So I really advise people to think that, about, don't think of where you're going to reach in 10 years, think about where you're going to be in 2 years, as much as that 10 year.
Makes a lot of sense. Sorry. So tell us more about Anjali. Why do you do the work that you're doing, and what is driving you to excel in what you're doing?
So I joined American Express, the first job that I had, and I joined in card services, and I began loving it. So I really, enjoyed it. And it was, I hadn't planned that I'm going to get into banking, but it happened to me because I applied for different roles, and I liked American Express. It was, it is a great company. It was a great brand. They were launching their card in India, joined them, enjoyed it, loved the people that I worked with, who are still some of my best friends in the world. And, there started my journey. From there, the whole BPO wave started coming. It was about 20 odd years ago. And then FIS was set up by somebody who'd seen me and worked in American Express, who said, come over and start setting up American Express, processes for us. So went there. And then Genpact was my first boss of American Express, who called me and said, we're signing a big banking deal, so come and be a line of business leader for us. I think one of the USPs of my career has been that bosses that I worked for do call me to work for them again. So that's a good thing, because that means I must have done something right. And that's why it's been very interesting. A year ago, I really thought about whether or not to leave Genpact, which is also a wonderful company and has taught me so much in my career. But I felt as if there was still one more long stint, my last hurrah, the last thing I want to do, and go back to maybe pure banking. And that's why I've joined Deutsche. It's been a wonderful year, very, very interesting year for me to join a company. And then the pandemic hit us, and so it's been a lot of work from home. But you learn life lessons. So I've learned very different things in this year in Deutsche Bank. So it's been learning how to get into a company, look at all your leaders, meet people all on your desktop, just like we're talking now. So it was this whole virtual induction into a company. And I hadn't thought I'd lived through something like that, but I have, and I think it's taught me a hell of a lot again. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting, because many of us, or rather none of us actually, had seen this kind of a working style, that this could also be possible, that we could work from home for so many months, almost a year now at a go, from home, and we
Yeah.
would be successful enough to be able to deliver what we are expected to. So this is a very different kind of a work style that we have been able to evolve, and a lot of companies have been able to adopt to it as well. So what do you think? Would this continue, and how would this help leaders and corporates to be able to utilize this to be able to make it a kind of a norm for everybody? Would that become a norm? Do you think so?
So, of course, I think the world has seen something like, seen an event which was one of a kind, right? It's probably the single most disruptive event of the century. And it disrupted the world at every level. So
Hmm.
it disrupted it in a medical way. It was a medical crisis. Economy. Almost every country's economy took a nosedive before they started figuring out what they need to do. And it will be some time before the world global economy fully recovers. Socially, look at the social impact it's had on all of us.
Hmm.
Who would have thought that we couldn't even, meet our best friends and give them a hug? The whole world went into, unheard of things like lockdown, quarantine. Those were things that you did if you got something very serious once in a while. And now these are words that we use all the time. We all talk about lockdown. Okay, I have to quarantine for 14 days, 7 days quarantine. It's sort of become the new vocabulary that we've become used to. Wearing a mask is now more important than, am I carrying two masks is more important than am I carrying my lipstick when I leave the house, right? So my purse now is about, do I have the mask? Do I have the sanitizer? Do I have tissues? And if I'm going to go somewhere where I have to touch something, am I carrying disposable gloves? My purse earlier used to be about, other than your wallet and stuff, do you have a comb and do you have other things that women keep in their wallets? So it's like life has changed so dramatically. There is a new normal. Life will never go back to what it used to be. So life as we knew it is never going to be this, is never going to be the same. But I think it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for people to understand that the future of work has changed. As it is, there was so much conversation about the future of work uh, being outcome driven. And I used to have this conversation before the pandemic hit that frankly, I don't care where people work from, right? Deliver results. I want to manage you by output. And look what's happened today. The pandemic became a catalyst to make that happen. So today, work from home is also gone. It's become work from anywhere. You can
Yes.
work from anywhere and you can still create results. There's
Yes.
going to be impacts on real estate. There's going to be impact on travel. There's going to be impact on how people work and engage with each other. So the disruption that happened politically, socially, medically, economically, it's going to make the world go into stability again. but it won't be the same old world that we go back to. When we go back to offices, our office environment will look different. Certain hygiene rules will come in forever. Certain social distancing, certain social etiquette will come in forever. Companies will take decisions to maybe have 50% work from home. A lot of companies have announced how workforce will continue to work from home because, hey, guess what? Surprise, surprise. Even working from home, a lot of people could deliver the same amount of productivity that they were doing sitting in an office environment. I'm not sure what the new normal is going to be, Karuna, but there is a new normal, and I think all of us should embrace it because it is the way forward.
Yeah, and I think it's a very important quality of a leader to be able to embrace the change, the adversity that might have come in, or the goodness it might bring in, basically the change, and be able to be the catalyst to be able to change it, help the change happen for the teams they might be leading as well. So, as a leader, I'm sure there are some different kind of conversations that you're having with your teams also. And now coming to another question that I have for you, Anjali, that I was thinking about is, you know what, we talk all the time about success, and when we look at people who've accomplished certain levels in their lives, as per certain statistics that we look at, people who are successful, they have had certain practices, habits, and mindsets that they work towards. But even before they do that, there are certain milestones or challenges that they come across that they are able to overcome while they are moving towards the milestones that they want to achieve. So I'm sure while you were working towards reaching a level, you would have faced certain kind of challenges, certain kind of situations which were unique to you. So, what were some of them, if you could share with us and tell us more about how did you overcome that? What were certain tools, mindsets that you had to shift to be able to make a change?
So I think, Karuna, I'm going to give you an answer which is a little more philosophical. Okay,
Oh,
I'm lucky. I think that I worked in great companies, and I still do. So American Express, Genpact, Deutsche Bank. These are phenomenal companies for women leaders. So I don't think and I'm fortunate in that. I don't think I've experienced some of that very overt gender bias that comes in lesser evolved companies. Also, let me say that 25, 27 years ago when I started, the biases probably were there and they were they were unconscious. That's why they existed. Today, it's a great time for women to be in corporate life because the whole world is talking about these things. Everyone is so self aware of all that's going on. But so I tell women, young women all the time, it's a great time to be a woman in corporate life because the conversation around women leadership and unconscious bias and, all of that is so much. And every company worth its salt is trying to drive the right policies to enable women to succeed. I think I've been a little more fortunate in my journey with the companies that I've worked for. So I want to say the biggest barrier that I probably had in my life, or the biggest challenge I had in my life, is a challenge every woman has. And guess what? It's sitting right here in our own head. And there are studies done on this. So these are all collaborated studies where I'm going to give you a couple of examples. There's a job post that's put up, right? And in that job post, there are 10 things that are required. A man would probably tick off 5 of those and say, I'm ready. I'm going to apply for this job. A woman will tick off 9 of them. She probably won't have 1 or 2, and she'll be questioning, should I, shouldn't I, because I didn't quite have that. I don't have all. She'll think about it. She'll fret about it. So women are so much more in self-doubt than men. And women are always asking, can I, instead of I can. So if I had to change one fundamental thing in my career or what was challenging me, which has changed over the years, has just been that self-belief, that confidence that I can do this. I have the ability. And the self-doubt, it's in your own head. And part of it is, unfortunately, just part of that gender difference between men and women. There is a study done on 6-year, 7-year-old kids, right? And I think it's a Deloitte study or a McKinsey study. At that age, they already find the girls have lower self-esteem than the boys. So what is it that's happening? How are we bringing up our kids? And it's so subtle that none of us is consciously trying to do it, but it does exist. So actually, to every woman out there, the biggest challenge is in your own head. And the sooner you change that narrative to say, I can, and you put up your hand and you have the conversation, you know, at most, what's the worst that can happen? You'll hear a no. Someone will say, no, I don't think you can get it right now. No, I
Exactly.
think, that person is better suited for you. Is there anything worse than that can happen when you put up your hand for, bigger opportunities, more challenging opportunities? So to just overcome that and constantly keep pushing yourself, keep saying, I can, and believe that is probably been the biggest challenge of my life. And having some good role models and mentors always help. So I love listening to Indra Nui's nuggets because I feel she's such a practical leader. She has such practical advice for women. I've had a couple of women bosses who were very inspiring as well. And again, they told me not just the sort of the broader advice about women leadership and all, but small nuggets of how to deal with stuff and how to make your life easier as you go forward, because women do have the added challenge usually of being the primary homemaker. So how do you want to juggle all of that? And if you can get some senior woman leader who can just share her own experience of it and give you some learnings, it helps.
Very interesting. And I'm sure this is the key when you're talking about the fact that we all have self doubt, whether men or women, but specifically women, because of the cultural setups that we always keep doubting ourselves about, will I be able to do this? Can I do this or no? Rather than saying that, what if we keep challenging ourselves and say, I can? And that is going to be a, guys, this is real good input coming in from Anjali. And I would say, do follow this, do keep this in mind. And also, she talked about having a mentor in place, which is going to help a lot, because whenever you are in doubt, whenever you have questions about your own self, it makes sense to go to the mentor and start asking. And the powerful questions that they might ask you can bring you back to what you would like to do in your life. And there are personal experiences that I've had when I was questioning my own self, and we all do that at some point or the other. Keep doing that. At when new things come up, we always have these doubts that come. But if we are always uh, going back to our mentors and sharing our concerns, I'm sure there are ways and means to be able to get out of it. So, Anjali, tell us more about some other practices that you follow.
Um, so, so I'm over the years, probably over the past, that's developed more recently. So I would say over the past 10, 12 years, I do follow a lot of mindfulness. I love my morning 1 hour when I have a combination of exercise and either affirmations or meditation, or just focusing on exactly what I talked about, right? Focusing on that moment right here. So I'm lucky. What I've started doing in the pandemic is walking a lot, because I used to go to the gym, and as the pandemic hit, the gyms shut down, and I'm too scared to go back to a gym now. So what I started doing was I started walking, and now I enjoy the walking so much that I don't think I want to go back to a gym. So right through summer, in the hottest June days, and now in winters, in the coldest December days and January days, I have walked at least 10,000 steps a day. My peak was around 16 kilometers, but on an average, I try to do 8 or 10 kilometers a day. I try to do it twice a day because it's amazing. And I just feel it's my time with myself. So in my morning walk, it's a lot about, I know meditation is usually supposed to be you sit down in one place and you let go. But for me, my walk is like meditation. I have these AirPods on in my ears right now, so they're always in my ears when I'm walking. And I'm usually either listening to some people who I love in terms of the messages that they've given the world, or I'm listening to some affirmations that I think are going to help me achieve the next thing that I want to, or I do something called, guided meditation that doesn't need you to sit down and close your eyes and try to stop thinking about anything. It's a phenomenal, time. It's my time, my space. That 1 hour. The days that I don't manage to do it, I actually feel very bad because I feel I haven't started my day right. And in the evenings, then if I go back to walk, I listen to music. Because then it's like, I'm walking and I've usually had a long day. So the evening is like, let me get a break, let me refresh my mind, go back into, nature, walk, and then this time listen to some of my favorite music as I walk. But I'm a big believer in the fact that at the end of the day, your energy and your thoughts and your positive attitude influence your life hugely. So if you keep this, again, I'm going back to that, right? If you keep this at a certain level, at a certain energy, in a certain positive and zone, the rest of your life just follows suit. A lot of stuff that a lot of negativity that we think about, we sort of almost make it happen. It's the self actualization, right? You kind of make whatever you believe come true. So if you're going to believe in good, good will happen. If you're going to believe that all the bad things of the world are lined up for you, chances are you might just make it happen with your own energy. So I don't know if
Yeah.
this makes sense to a lot of people. It happens as you get older, right? You start thinking about all these things, and I think each one of us finds a little bit of our spiritual journey along with our practical life.
Yeah, and I think it's so important. And when you hear some amazing leaders, thought leaders, or people, who are, coaches and self development coaches as well, you find all of them are talking about this same point, that it's your energy which influences your work. It is even leaders at top levels, when you talk to them, uh, most of them are mm, talking about this point, that leaders,
Yeah.
whatever your energy is, it influences your work. So I'm sure there is a lot of benefit in ensuring that we keep our mindsets positive, with whatever ways, methods. For example, Anjali talked about how she loves walking, and that's what helps her be in that positive frame, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. So we all have our own unique ways that we can find out by connecting to our own selves, finding that small, self-reflection times, or those times when we can just sit down and be with our own selves. I'm sure you'll find your times where you would be able to build up on your energy, be in the positive mind frame, and that's is going to help you shift your levels as well. So, Anjali, this has been an amazing conversation. Tell us more about. I know that you do a lot of work. You've mentored a lot of women leaders as well, and you're also associated with other organizations where you're supporting them at a leadership role. Tell me more about your interest of supporting women leaders. Why are you so passionate about it?
So I think around my late 30s is when I would have started thinking that I can actually advise and guide and help younger women, right? Until then, I was one of those younger women that probably was looking up for that advice and guidance. And like I said, I wish someone had sort of said certain things to me when my younger self, right? And I kind of, or I wish I had spoken to my younger self. It was very often, I guess all of us will feel it when you start reaching my age. Then you look back at your 20s and say, why didn't I, think of it like this then? Or why didn't I believe this then? But anyway, by the time I think I was in my late 30s, I did believe that I had sort of learned something from my life, and I had sometimes not understood certain things, and my journey, or my I don't want to call it success, because I think it was just, I was on, it was my journey. And there's a great book that I read at that time, and someone asked me to read it. What got you here won't get you there, right? And it's actually a great book to read when you're around your mid 30s, when you've started feeling that you're doing well professionally, And so there's a sort of confidence that starts, setting into you, because you actually start believing in yourself and thinking, I'm not doing so badly after all, and so this is a good thing. Then you read this book, and it asks you to relook at everything. Okay, it asks you to really change who you are, because everything that got you here is not what you need for the next phase of your life. And what tends to happen is, when you achieve moderate success, or you achieve a lot of success, maybe I didn't, earlier in life, you start believing that everything that you're doing must be right because you're achieving success. So therefore, whatever your habits are, or whoever you are, is exactly who you need to be for the rest of your life, because look, it's working. But no, it's not going to work, and you have to keep changing yourself, and you have to sort of look at how you keep improving yourself. And so, close to, around that time, I also started thinking of how I wanted to never get arrogant about anything, because that book talks a lot about arrogance, and how it's very important to keep humility very much a part of your journey throughout, no matter what. And very, so consciously, really make sure that you don't allow moderate success also to go to your head and make you believe that you're larger than life in any which way. And then I started thinking of other things that mattered. And I started thinking of, how, if you live in India, first of all, it's unfortunate, but there's such a big divide between, the haves and have-nots. And if you think of women, then, because I started getting invited to women leadership talks, and I started mentoring younger women, etc. So it again made me peel the onion and think that there's so much conversation happening at corporate life, and there's so much focus. But I live in India, and in a country like India, where should you start? There's female infanticide, there is girl education that really needs focus, there's girl trafficking, there is skills, right, for women, there is employment. It's like, oh my god, at every point, look at the gender gap between men and women. Yes, it's global, yes, it's in corporate life, but it's also in, rural, sort of the roots of India. So how do you start working? I always say, in India, you don't have to say, what do I do? You say, where do I start? Because there is so much to do in this space. And so I've gotten involved in, some things that I think can help, can make a difference. I i get invited, and like you've asked me here, to speak a lot at corporate functions. I think corporates have probably done a lot in terms of, the policies and the guidelines they've set into place. Government policy has actually changed to support women quite a bit. The fundamentals of what we need to change is family and society. And that is like, our culture and who we are socially and culturally, right? The stereotypes and the biases start right there. So it will take many, many more years to change, but that has to be the focus. Because all official guidelines, policies, rules have now equated women with men everywhere, or to whatever degree it can be done. If someone is still defying that, or if unconscious biases come in, so be it. But written policy has started supporting women so much. The biases are because we're carrying stereotypes, and not because the law of the land says that women should be paid less, or women can't enter here, or women should get, less of a chance at educational institutes. All of that is laid down. Now, as president of the Wiki Banking Council, when we're creating a white paper on, lending and loans, and seeing all the schemes that are available for women, which has been put into place, look at the utilization of those schemes. They're hardly utilized. So there is so much done in terms of policy and governance, I think, but the utilization of that doesn't happen because of all the things we've talked about. One is that whole socio-cultural thing, and the second one is women not reaching out, not leaning in, not putting up their hand and saying, I want this and I need this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just began, and I've never looked back, and then the more you get involved in it, the more the more at least for me, it sort of became something that I started driving with a lot of passion. I don't do anything unless I do it with passion, because I also believe in ikigai. That, you've got to love what you do, you've got to, be good at what you do. Hopefully, the world needs what you do, and they may even pay you for what you do.
Yeah, interesting. And Aditya has a very interesting comment. I'm just going to put up his comment. He talks about the fact that self belief is the most important for success, but he also believes that women are more sincere and committed to the job at hand. That's so true that Aditya has mentioned about it. However, in my observations or whatever work I've been doing with women and the projects that I've come up with, the program that we have called as Eva Club, where we support women to become better at learning business. Um, what I found out was that, as you mentioned earlier, that self doubt, the self esteem issues are the highest amongst people, amongst women, and that is where, even though they have amazing qualities of managing, multitasking, or being sincere at and committed at what they are doing, you find that for them to be able to move ahead, um, self doubt pulls them down. And if that is we are able to shift that, there'll be even many more such stories that we will come up. And one of the reasons of why I would love to bring in many more leaders like you, Anjali, on this session is that we can create inspiring stories for women to look at them, other people also to look at them and feel inspired that there are so many such people who've broken that glass ceiling, moved ahead from those barriers, and created a great mark for themselves. And like,
I
as
mean,
regards,
I like
yeah,
you talking of glass ceiling because look at today, right? Or look at last night. I mean, the biggest glass ceiling of the world got broken.
yes,
Kamala Harris sworn in as Vice President of the United States of America. What a moment. I mean,
yes,
it's a moment for all women. It's a landmark moment for women of the
yes,
world because it's a woman of color and reaching one of the highest positions in the world, right? In one of the largest and most powerful countries of the world. A woman with Indian origin and married to a Jamaican. Look what she's done with her life. So glass ceilings. I mean, she shattered every glass ceiling there is. So it's a great day, I think, for women. I tweeted it. I put it up on all social media. What a moment for women, because I don't just think that it's her moment. I think it's a moment for women all over the world because first of all, respect and applaud, to her. But I think, wow, she's opened a door that is amazing. So every woman should feel, why not? I was even telling my staff at home, I said, look at her. This is when she was taking her, they were showing her on the news. I said, this is a woman. She started in India and now she's in America and she's the vice president of America. America is one of the biggest countries of the world. So my staff is asking me that, did she start in a poor home? I said, well, she didn't start rich. So look at what women can do if they work hard, if they educate themselves, if they believe in themselves.
yes. I think believing in yourself is the real key
Yeah,
that will shift perspectives for a lot of us.
absolutely.
So that's a lovely thought that you brought up, Anjali, and thank you so much for bringing that point. When we are talking about leading authentically in your teams and being a leader in any way, which whatever passion area that you're standing for, as you mentioned that you do things with passion, and you do believe that ikigai is something which is for real, and we should adopt it as a um, you know as a concept. I do personally believe in that also. And leading authentically for me is also about being self aware, being able to express what I want and what I feel that is not, right, and speaking up, standing up for that point. Having that confidence to stand up for that point. So, what are your thoughts on that when it comes to leading authentically?
So maybe I lost you there, Karuna. I don't know the question. What does leading authentically mean to me? Is that the
Yes.
question?
What does leading authentically mean to you? For me, for example, one of the aspect of leading authentically is that standing up for what you believe in, standing up for and expressing it. That's what I believe is important when you are being authentic. You are leading authentically.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, absolutely. That is one of the building blocks of, authentic leadership, that you have to stand up for what you believe in, and you have to, you have to be doing everything on a bedrock of integrity, right? So to my mind, that's the most important thing that leadership should have as a given: integrity, leading with honesty and transparency. Because when you're doing everything in your job with integrity, and you know that, then even if your view is wrong, you're not going to be scared, because you can have a point of view that is actually not in complete agreement with the rest of the world. But if you've done nothing dishonest in that, in that view or in your work, you'll always state your views with confidence. It's only when we think there is something that, so first of all, if, women have more confidence in just, themselves, and secondly, women are more sincere and they are more committed. So Aditya was right, women tend to do their jobs with far more commitment and sincerity. And so when you're doing your job with commitment, with sincerity, with integrity, and you have the confidence to believe in yourself, you should certainly speak up. But leading with integrity, I think, is, I mean leading with it's also about fairness. So one of the biggest things that leaders have to be careful about is prejudice, right? And some of it is conscious. So some leaders are just known for having their favorites and having their own coteries and all of that. The more you can avoid that, the better. And now, in today's world, with diversity and inclusion being so big, it's become an even bigger topic. It's not just about, you have a favorite because you prefer someone to the other person. Are you creating diverse, organizations and teams? And by diverse, I mean gender, I mean race, I mean, ethnicity. Now it's even become sexual orientation and all of those things. So is there true fairness in how you look at everybody? Are you able to look at everyone with the same view, without any preconceived, judgment and bias of who they are, and just judge them by what they're bringing to work every day and what they're contributing? And chances are, if we all put our hands on our hearts and, honestly look at ourselves, do we have that integrity? And do we have that leadership capability where we don't allow our personal unconscious stereotypes and biases to get in the way of how we manage our teams? And fairness, and transparency is an equally big attribute of being a leader. The last thing is, to my mind, inspiring, right? Because as you get more and more senior in your career, the biggest thing you've got to do as you go forward is carry people with you. You've got to be able to inspire people to do what you've asked them to do. You've got to be able to influence without direct authority. Huge trait to have in life. If you can do that, you're a leader. So it stops being about, task orientation. It stops being about how well do you manage your P&L and how well do you understand business, because those are almost given by the time you reach a certain level. It becomes more and more about your, people leadership skills, about driving people towards common goals, about inspiring people to, be the best that they can be. That has to be there in a leader, and those are the things that differentiate good leaders from great leaders.
Amazing. I just loved it. And I think it makes so much of sense when we talk about integrity. It is not just about being honestly, but it actually gives us the strength to stand up for our own selves. That strength we get from, being conscious of our own selves, being standing up for the fact that we are being, honest in whatever we are doing, gives us so much of strength. Being fair is something so amazing as well, because that's where, as a leader, we are being unbiased, unjudgmental, and we bring in diversity and inclusiveness in workplaces. And of course, I loved the third point that you mentioned about being inspirational, because for a leader, having people leadership, even without having direct influence, is such an important aspect in today's times, and specifically when we are in a digital world. From a technology aspect, you could create influence sitting anywhere, any part of the world. So that was an amazing thought, Anjali, and I think a lot of our audiences have interesting stuff to say about that also. And thank you so much for bringing in those points. You know this that there is a concept of Eva Club that we've started off with, which is to help women become better at business skills, and I do believe that that's the way I wish to contribute to helping build uh, women as well. So, and we talked about that this is all about coaching women and supporting them to be able to shift to the next levels that they have. So, what is your view on coaching, and what is your view that this could be a program that could help people? Would you like to leave a message for women who are associated with
Yeah, so I think it's great. And I think women entrepreneurs, first of all, you know, I'm just glad that they've taken the first step to become an entrepreneur, which is also a big thing, right? A lot of us and a lot of women would hesitate to even take that step. And once they've decided to do that, I do believe they can, use all the help they can get. So it's great to see what Eva Club is trying to do with the group that you're supporting. We in my other hat that I wear as the wiki banking president, I would love to see how we can help your group to understand better, because we're actually working, and one of our big pillars is lending and funding, which would cater to these kind of women. But my message to them is really about sort of believe in yourself, and make sure that you understand all that's out there, which is where hopefully if we work together jointly, we can see how there's so much happening in the policy and the schemes and everything. I don't know how aware women entrepreneurs are about all of those things, and therefore they should make sure they understand everything that's available, that they are getting all the benefits that they can, and literally create like a tribe, right? So there's so many, and there's so many groups like yourself, which is wonderful. It's needed, but I also think it's time to join the dots and make some of these groups come together and become a bigger tribe of women, because small groups is sort of a smaller voice. Large group is a very large voice, because if you want to come together and then say, here is what we collectively need, this is what we need in terms of lending, this is the kind of commercial loan that women entrepreneurs should be given, this is the collateral that we can, what is the GST, all of those conversations, right? And I'm sorry, I'm talking financial terms, but that's the power of what organizations like you and others can create, because it's bringing these women together, it's giving them a forum, it's giving them a community that they can come together, and then community becomes stronger than every individual person trying to fight for the same thing.
Yes.
So hats off, kudos. I'm all the best to the women that you support, and I'm sure that if they've taken that first step, they will be successful in the in the enterprises that they've started, in the initiatives they're running, because women give it far more commitment, sincerity, and are as smart as any man. So it doesn't see no
Makes
reason why they won't succeed.
Yeah, and I think with inspirational people like you, I'm sure when they hear these messages, they'll be even more excited and motivated to take this ahead. And a lot of power to you for such amazing work that you're doing, Anjali. And thank you so
Thank
much that you've been able to find time to come on this session and create even more inspiration for a lot of people around us. And we have a lot of raving reviews and already a lot of comments pouring in where people have been writing about how interesting that they found this conversation has been. And thank you so much that you brought in
Thank
such
you.
amazing inspiration for people who are listening to us and who will listen to us in future.
Thanks so much, Karuna. Thank you for having
Thank
me. All
you.
right.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much for being here. Bye bye. And we're
Okay,
all
bye.
going to be back with another session next week, every Thursday. So keep tuned in. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching in. Thank you. Bye bye for now.